The night sky lit up with a burning streak of light. A small ship cut through Earth's atmosphere, trailing fire and smoke. Deep in the quiet forests of the Pacific Northwest, the peaceful night was broken by a loud crash and the sound of metal tearing apart. Jason woke up with a start. He had fallen asleep in his forest ranger truck after a long day of patrol. The bright flash and boom made him sit up straight. 20 years as a forest ranger had taught him that strange lights and sounds in his forest meant trouble. What was that? He muttered, grabbing his flashlight and first aid kit. Old habits from his military medic days never left him. Jason drove toward where he saw the light fall. The dirt road was rough, and his truck bounced as he pushed deeper into the woods. After a mile, he could go no further by vehicle. The rest would be on foot. The forest was dark and quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects making sounds. Something had scared them all away. Jason moved carefully, following a trail of broken trees and disturbed earth. The smell hit him first. Burning metal and strange chemicals. Nothing like a forest fire. Then he saw it. A clearing that wasn't there yesterday. In the middle sat a strange metal shape, still smoking. Parts of it glowed with blue light. "That's not one of ours," Jason whispered. The ship was small, maybe the size of 2 cars. Its shape was smooth and curved, like nothing made on Earth. Jason approached slowly. Military training told him to call this in, but curiosity pulled him forward. A section of the ship had torn open. Inside, he could see blinking lights and broken pieces. Then he heard it. A soft moan. Someone was alive in there. Putting caution aside, Jason climbed into the broken ship. The inside was strange. Control panels with symbols he didn't recognize and seats made for bodies shaped different from humans. In one of the seats was a figure. At first glance, it looked human. A woman with a slim build. But as Jason got closer, he saw the differences. Her skin had a faint blue glow and seemed to shimmer. Her face was human-like, but with high cheekbones and large eyes. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead, but the blood was dark purple, not red. "An alien," Jason said in disbelief. "An actual alien." The woman, the alien, opened her eyes. They were deep purple with no whites, and they focused on Jason with clear intelligence. She tried to speak but winced in pain. Jason's training took over. Alien or not, someone was hurt. "Don't move," he said gently. "I'm here to help." He checked her over quickly. Besides the head wound, her right arm was broken, and she had cuts all over. But she was breathing fine, and her pulse, yes, she had one, seemed steady. The alien woman watched him work. Her eyes showed fear, but also curiosity. When Jason bandaged her head, she reached up with her good hand and touched his arm. Her skin was warm. "Thank you," she said. Her voice had a strange echo, but the words were clear English. Jason froze in surprise. "You speak English?" She touched a small device on her collar. Translation: emergency. The device sparked and went silent. Then her eyes rolled back, and she passed out again. Jason looked around. The ship was damaged beyond repair. Smoke was getting thicker. It wasn't safe to stay. "I can't leave you here," he told the unconscious alien. "And I can't call this in. Who knows what they'd do to you?" Making up his mind, Jason carefully lifted the alien woman. She was lighter than she looked. He carried her out of the ship and back toward his truck. Behind them, something in the ship exploded. Pieces of strange metal flew everywhere. By morning, there would be nothing left but ashes. "Looks like you're stuck with me," Jason said as he gently placed her in his truck. "At least until you're better." As he drove away from the crash site, Jason wondered what he had gotten himself into. But looking at the injured alien, he knew he had made the right choice. Some things were more important than rules. Jason's cabin sat alone on the edge of the forest. No neighbors for miles, just how he liked it. Tonight, He was glad for the privacy as he carried the unconscious alien woman through his front door. The cabin was small but clean. One bedroom, a living room with a fireplace, and a basic kitchen. Jason gently placed the alien on his bed. In the light of his home, he could see her better. Her skin had a faint blue glow that seemed to pulse with her breathing. Her features were almost human, but more perfect, like a statue come to life. "What am I doing?" Jason muttered as he gathered medical supplies. "She's not even human." But wounded was wounded. His medic training didn't say anything about only helping humans. For 3 days, Jason cared for the alien woman. He cleaned her cuts, set her broken arm as best he could, and checked her breathing. He called in sick to work, saying he had a bad flu. His boss didn't question it. Jason never took days off. On the 4th morning, Jason was making coffee when he heard movement from the bedroom. He turned to find the alien woman standing in the doorway. She was wearing one of his old t-shirts that he had put on her to replace her torn clothes. It hung loose on her slim frame. Her large purple eyes studied him carefully. Then she touched the bandage on her head and the splint on her arm. "You helped me," she said. Her voice had that strange echo, but the words were clear. Jason nodded slowly. "Yes, your ship crashed. You were hurt." The alien woman looked around the cabin, taking everything in. Then she looked back at Jason. "Why did you help me? I am not like you." Jason shrugged. "You needed help. That's all that matters." For a moment, the alien just stared at him. Then her face changed in a way that looked like a smile. "My name is Neri," she said, putting a hand to her chest. "Jason," he replied, pointing to himself. Neri tried to step forward but wobbled. Jason quickly moved to help her to a chair at his small table. "You're still weak," he said. "You need to rest." Neri nodded. "My ship, is it?" "Gone," Jason said. "It exploded after I got you out. I'm sorry." Neri's shoulders dropped. "Then I am stuck here. My beacon was in the ship." Jason poured a cup of coffee and placed it in front of her. "What were you doing near Earth anyway?" Neri looked at the coffee with curiosity. She sniffed it, then took a small sip, her face scrunched up at the bitter taste. "I am a scientist. I study new worlds and life forms. Your planet is interesting to us." "Us?" Jason asked, sitting across from her. "My people, the Triaxians." Neri touched the broken device on her collar. "This translator is damaged. It will not last long." Jason thought for a moment. "I might be able to help fix it. I'm good with machines." Neri's eyes widened. "You would do this, even though I am alien to you." "You're a person in trouble," Jason said simply. "Where I come from, that's all that matters." For the first time, Neri truly smiled. It was strange on her alien face, but also familiar. "Your kind is not what we expected," she said. "Our study showed humans as dangerous and unpredictable." "We can be," Jason admitted, "but we can also be kind." That night, Jason slept on his couch while Neri took his bed. As he drifted off to sleep, he wondered what would happen next. He had an alien in his home. The government would want to know. Scientists would want to study her. But looking at the bedroom door, Jason made up his mind. Neri wasn't a specimen or a security threat. She was a person far from home who needed help, and he would make sure she got it. 2 weeks passed. Neri grew stronger each day. Her cuts healed faster than a human's would. Even her broken arm was almost better. Jason had fixed her translator enough to work for short talks, but it still sparked sometimes. Every day, they learned more about each other. Jason taught Neri about Earth. She was full of questions. "Why do you live alone in the forest?" Neri asked one morning as they sat on the cabin's porch. The sun was rising, painting the sky pink and orange. Jason sipped his coffee. "I like the quiet. People are complicated. Your cities have millions of humans all living together," Neri said. Our study showed humans need others around them. Most do, Jazz-san agreed, but not all of us. What about your people? Do you all live together? Nari nodded. Triaxians live in group homes, 30 or 40 together. We share everything. That sounds crowded, Jazz-san said with a small smile. To us, this is lonely, Nari replied, looking around at the empty forest. But I see why you like it. It is peaceful. Later that day, Jae-sun showed Nari how to cook. She had never seen anyone make food from raw items before. On my world, food comes ready to eat, she explained, watching him cut vegetables. Machines make it all. That sounds boring, Jae-sun said. Cooking is an art. Nari tried to help, but dropped a tomato. It splattered on the floor. She looked embarrassed, but Jae-sun just laughed. It's okay, he said, handing her a cloth. Everyone makes messes when they learn. That night, they ate the simple stew Jae-sun had made. Nari seemed to enjoy it, though some earth foods made her stomach hurt. Why did you become a forest ranger? She asked. Jae-sun was quiet for a moment. After the army, I needed peace. The forest has no wars, no fighting, just life growing as it should. You were a warrior? Nari asked, looking surprised. A medic, Jae-sun corrected. I helped the wounded, but I saw too much pain. Now I watch trees instead of people. Trees don't shoot each other. Nari nodded slowly. My people have not had war for 1,000 years. We forgot how to fight. That sounds nice, Jae-sun said. Not always, Nari said, her voice becoming serious. There are other races in space. Some are not peaceful. Jae-sun wanted to ask more, but Nari's translator sparked and went silent. The conversation was over for now. As days turned into weeks, they made their own language. Part English, part hand signs, and part Triaxian words that Jae-sun learned to say. They didn't need the translator as much anymore. Jae-sun taught Nari about Earth nature. She was amazed by the different trees and animals. Once they saw a deer and her fawn drinking from a stream. Nari watched with wide eyes. So much life, she whispered. All so different. My world has fewer kinds of animals. In return, Nari taught Jae-sun about the stars. At night, she would point to the sky and tell him the names of systems he could barely see. My home is there, she said one night, pointing to a small cluster of stars. Too far to see well from here. Do you miss it? Jae-sun asked. Yes, Nari said simply. But I am learning to like Earth too. One morning, Jae-sun found Nari trying to fix something from her ship, a small round device she had kept in her pocket. What is that? He asked. A recorder, she said. It has all my research. If I can fix it, I can show you the other worlds I've seen. Jae-sun helped her work on it. Their hands sometimes touched as they fixed tiny parts. Neither of them moved away when this happened. They were no longer afraid of each other's differences. They were becoming friends. It happened on a quiet Tuesday evening. Jae-sun and Nari were sitting by the fireplace. Outside, rain fell softly on the cabin roof. For almost a month now, they had lived together in peace. Suddenly, Nari froze. Her eyes went wide, and she stood up quickly. What's wrong? Jae-sun asked, seeing the fear on her face. Something is coming, she whispered. Her hand shook as she touched her ears. I can feel it. My people sense when ships enter a planet's space. Jae-sun stood and looked out the window. The sky was dark with rain clouds. He couldn't see anything strange. Are your people coming for you? He asked. Nari shook her head. No, this feels wrong. Cold. She looked at Jae-sun with worried eyes. I think it's the Raxians. Who are they? Enemies of my people, Nari explained quickly. They hunt Triaxian scientists to steal our research. They are warriors, killers. Jae-sun felt a chill. Why would they come here? They must have tracked my ship before it crashed. Neri paced the small room. If they find me, they will kill me. And if they learn about humans, she stopped, looking afraid to finish. What? Jason pressed. Raxians take over worlds with useful life forms, she said. They would see humans as a resource, or a threat to remove. Jason took a deep breath. Then we need to hide you better. They spent the night preparing. Jason packed food, water, and first aid supplies in his backpack. Nari worked on her small recorder device. I can change this to detect Raxian energy signals, she explained. It will warn us if they get close. By morning, they were ready. Just in time. Nari's device started beeping softly. They're here, she whispered. A small ship has landed about 10 miles from here. Jason looked out at his forest. He knew every path and hiding spot. How many? 3, maybe 4 hunters, Neri said, checking her device. They will have tracking tools and weapons. We have one advantage, Jason said. This is my forest. I know it better than anyone. They left the cabin just after sunrise. Jason led Nari deep into the woods, following hidden animal trails that few humans ever used. The rain had stopped, but the ground was wet and muddy, good for hiding their tracks. By midday, they reached a small cave behind a waterfall. It was one of Jason's secret spots from his years of patrolling. We'll be safe here for a while, he said, helping Nari inside. The cave was dry and hidden from view. But just as they settled in, Nari's device started beeping faster. They're moving quickly, she said with surprise. Their trackers must be better than I thought. Jason peered out from behind the waterfall. At first, he saw nothing. Then, a movement caught his eye. Something was moving through the forest about half a mile away. It wasn't human. The creature was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to change color slightly as it moved. It wore some kind of armor and carried a long weapon. Its head turned slowly, scanning the area. I see one, Jason whispered. It doesn't look friendly. Neri came to look. She gasped softly. Raxian hunter. Very dangerous. They can smell better than your best dogs and see heat from bodies. The waterfall should hide our heat, Jason said. But we can't stay here long. As if hearing them, the Raxian suddenly turned toward the waterfall. It made a clicking sound and raised its weapon. It senses something, Neri said, pulling Jason back into the cave. We need to move deeper. The cave went back further than it looked. They crawled through a narrow passage and found themselves in a larger chamber. What do we do now? Nari asked, her voice small with fear. Jason's military training kicked in. Now we make a plan. Because I'm not letting those things hurt you or my planet. They waited in the dark cave until night fell. The Raxian hunter had searched near the waterfall, but didn't find the hidden entrance. When Neri's device showed the hunter moving away, they slipped out. We need to keep moving, Jason whispered. They'll come back with more hunters. Under the light of the moon, they traveled through the forest. Jason led them away from paths, through thick bushes and across small streams. He was trying to confuse their trail. Where are we going? Nari asked. She was tired but kept up with Jason's pace. There's a small town about 20 miles south, he said. We can find a car there. A car? Nari looked confused. A machine that moves faster than walking, Jason explained. We need speed now. They walked all night. When morning came, they hid in a thick group of trees to rest. Jason shared some food from his pack. I'm sorry, Nari said suddenly. I brought danger to your world. Jason shook his head. You didn't choose to crash here. But the Raxians wouldn't be here if not for me, she insisted. If they find out about humans. They won't, Jason said firmly. We'll make sure of that. By afternoon, they were moving again. Nari's device showed 3 Raxian signals, all spreading out to search. They were getting closer. As the sun began to set, they'd reached the edge of the forest. Below them, In a small valley was a town. Lights were just coming on in windows. "We need to be careful," Jason said. "You look almost human, but your skin glows slightly." Nari nodded. From her pocket, she took out a small tube. She squeezed some cream onto her hands and rubbed it on her face and arms. "Skin cover," she explained. "For blending in on research trips. It won't last long, but it should help." With the cream, Nari looked human. Her skin no longer glowed, and her high cheekbones seemed less sharp. Only her purple eyes would draw attention. "Keep your head down," Jason told her, "and stay close to me." They walked into town as darkness fell. A few people were on the streets, but no one paid much attention to them. They looked like hikers coming back from a trip. Jason led them to a small motel at the edge of town. The sign said "vacancy" in red letters. Inside, an old man sat behind a desk. He barely looked up from his television. "Need a room?" he asked. "Yes, just for tonight," Jason said, handing over some cash. "Long hike. Very tired." The old man took the money and gave them a key. "Room 7, end of the hall." The room was small and simple. One bed, a bathroom, and a chair by the window. Nari sat down on the bed, looking around with interest. "This is how humans travel?" she asked. "Some of us," Jason said as he checked out the window. "No sign of Rakshans yet. Tomorrow we'll find a car." That night, they took turns sleeping. While one rested, the other watched the window. Nari's device sat between them, set to beep if Rakshans came close. In the morning, Jason went out alone. He returned an hour later with new clothes for both of them, some food, and keys to an old truck. "I bought it from a man down the street," he explained. "It's not fancy, but it runs." "Where will we go?" Nari asked as she changed into the new clothes, jeans and a hooded sweatshirt that hid her features. "West," Jason said, "to the ocean. I have a friend with a boat. Maybe we can hide somewhere no one will look." As they drove out of town, Nari kept checking her device. The Rakshan signals were moving toward the town. "They're following our trail," she said, worried. "By the time they reach town, we'll be long gone," Jason assured her, but his hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. He knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge was still ahead. For 3 days, Jason and Nari drove west. They stayed on small back roads, away from big towns. They only stopped when they needed gas or food. At night, they slept in the truck, taking turns to watch. Nari's device showed the Rakshans were still following, but they had fallen behind. The hunters had no car. They were fast, but not faster than a truck on open roads. "We might make it," Jason said as they crossed into a new state. The mountains were behind them now. Ahead, flat land stretched toward the distant ocean. Nari looked at her device. "They have called their ship. It's moving this way. How long do we have?" "Maybe 1 day," Nari said. "The ship is slow in atmosphere." They drove faster. Jason's friend with the boat lived in a small coast town. If they could reach him, maybe they could get out to sea where the Rakshans might not find them. By sunset, they could smell salt in the air. The ocean was close. But then, Nari's device began beeping wildly. "Stop the truck," she shouted. Jason pulled over. "What is it?" "Rakshans. They're ahead of us." Nari's face was pale. "They must have used their ship to place hunters in our path." Jason looked at the empty road ahead. "Where are they?" "I don't see anything." "They can hide," Nari explained. "Their skin changes to match what's around them." Jason thought quickly. "Is there another way to the coast?" Nari checked a map they had bought. "There's a small road about 5 miles back. It goes south, then west again." "That will add hours to our trip," Jason said. "We have no choice," Nari replied. They turned around and found the small road. It was rough and winding. The truck bounced over holes in the road. Night fell, making it hard to see. "The ship is getting closer," Neri warned, checking her device. "And the hunters ahead of us are moving this way." "We're almost there," Jason said. He could see lights ahead. The small coast town was just a few miles away. But as they rounded a corner, something large jumped into the road. Jason swerved hard. The truck spun and hit a tree. The front end crumpled like paper. "Are you okay?" Jason asked Neri. She nodded, though she had a cut on her forehead. "We need to run," she said. They grabbed their bags and climbed out of the damaged truck. The thing that had jumped into the road was gone, but Neri's device was beeping fast. "It's a Raxian," she whispered. "It's circling back." They ran into the woods beside the road. The town lights were visible through the trees, so close, yet so far. Suddenly, a tall gray figure stepped out from behind a tree. Its skin rippled, changing from gray to match the browns and greens of the forest. In its hands was a long, thin weapon. "Run," Jason shouted, pushing Neri forward. "Don't stop." The Raxian fired. A beam of blue light shot past them, hitting a tree. The tree froze solid, then shattered. They ran faster. More beams fired around them. Jason could hear the Raxian moving behind them, making strange clicking sounds. Then Neri tripped. She fell hard, her bag flying from her hands. The Raxian raised its weapon, aiming at her. Without thinking, Jason threw himself in front of Neri. The blue beam hit him in the chest. Instant cold, worse than anything he had ever felt, spread through his body. He fell to the ground, unable to move. "Jason!" Neri screamed. She crawled to him, pulling him behind a large rock as more beams hit around them. Jason could barely breathe. The cold was turning to burning pain. His vision was getting dark around the edges. "Go," he whispered to Neri. "Run. Save yourself." Neri's face was the last thing he saw before darkness took him. She was saying something, her eyes filled with tears. But he couldn't hear her anymore. Neri pulled Jason's limp body behind a large rock. Her hand shook as she checked his pulse. It was weak, but he was still alive. The Raxian weapon had left a blue-black mark on his chest that was spreading slowly. "No, no, no," she whispered. "Don't die. Please don't die." The Raxian was moving closer. Neri could hear its clicking sounds. She looked around desperately. They were trapped. Then she noticed something. The device that had fallen from her bag when she tripped was lying a few feet away. It wasn't just a tracker. It had other functions she hadn't told Jason about. Neri took a deep breath and darted out from behind the rock. The Raxian fired, but missed. She grabbed the device and rolled back to safety as more blue beams hit around her. "I need time," she said to herself as she worked quickly with the device. Her fingers pressed a hidden panel, revealing a small compartment with strange tools inside. The Raxian was only 20 feet away now. It was moving carefully, weapons ready. Neri took a small vial of blue liquid from the compartment. It was her emergency medical supply, Triaxian blood with special healing properties. She had saved it in case she was injured. "You saved me," she said to the unconscious Jason. "Now it's my turn, human." She tore open Jason's shirt. The blue-black mark had spread across his chest. The Raxian weapon was designed to freeze the body from the inside. No human medicine could help him now. Neri mixed the blue liquid with a powder from another vial. The mixture began to glow with soft purple light. She spread it over Jason's chest, directly on the wound. "This will hurt," she whispered. "I'm sorry." The Raxian appeared at the edge of their hiding place. It raised its weapon. Neri didn't look up. She was focusing all her energy on the mixture. She placed her hands over it and began to speak words in her language. The mixture sank into Jason's skin. The Raxian fired, but the beam never hit them. It stopped in midair, as if hitting an invisible wall. The purple light from the mixture had spread to form a shield around them. The Raxian fired again and again. Each beam hit the shield and disappeared. Inside the shield, Jasun's body began to change. The blue-black mark faded. His skin took on a slight purple glow, similar to Nari's natural skin. His breathing became stronger. The shield was using Nari's energy. She felt herself growing weaker, but she didn't stop. The Triaxian healing mixture was bonding with Jasun's human cells, changing them in ways that had never been tested before. Finally, the Raxian stopped firing. It made angry clicking sounds, then seemed to talk into a device on its wrist. It was calling for help. Nari knew they only had minutes. The shield wouldn't last much longer. Then Jasun opened his eyes. They were no longer brown. They had flecks of purple in them, just like Nari's. "What happened?" he asked, his voice stronger than it should have been. "I saved you," Nari said, tears running down her face. "But I had to use Triaxian medicine. It changed you." Jasun sat up. The wound was completely gone. He felt different, stronger, more alert. And strangest of all, he could sense Nari's thoughts. "I can hear you," he said in wonder. "In my head." Nari nodded. "The bonding created a link between us. It was the only way to save you." "The Raxian?" Jasun asked, looking around. "It's calling for help. We have minutes at most." Jasun stood up. He should have been weak, but instead, he felt power flowing through him. He looked at his hands. They had a faint purple glow under the skin. "What else did your medicine do to me?" he asked. "I don't know," Nari said honestly. "No human has ever been treated with it before, but we need to move now." The shield was fading. The Raxian was watching, waiting. Jasun helped Nari up. Through their new mental link, he could feel how tired she was from creating the shield. "My turn to protect you," he said, picking her up easily. She felt light as a feather in his new strength. He looked at the Raxian with his new eyes. For the first time, he could see it clearly even with its camouflage. And he wasn't afraid anymore. As the shield faded away, Jasun stood tall with Nari in his arms. The Raxian hunter made angry clicking sounds and raised its weapon again. "Put me down," Nari said. "I can walk." "Save your strength," Jasun replied. Through their new mental link, he could feel how tired she was. "I have a plan." The Raxian fired. Jasun moved with new speed, dodging the blue beam easily. He ran into the trees, moving faster than he ever could before. In his mind, he felt Nari's surprise. "How are you doing this?" she asked without speaking. "I don't know," he answered in the same way. "But I like it." They reached a small clearing. Jasun gently set Nari down behind a fallen tree. "Stay here," he said. "I'm going to try something." "Be careful," Nari warned. "The Raxian has called for help. Others are coming." Jasun nodded. He could feel it too now, a sense of danger approaching. But they had a small window of time before the other hunters arrived. He moved back toward the Raxian. With his new senses, he could see it clearly despite its camouflage. It was stalking through the trees, searching for them. Jasun picked up a rock. With perfect aim, he threw it far to the right. It hit a tree with a loud crack. The Raxian turned toward the sound, its weapon ready. Moving silently, Jasun circled behind it. He had been a medic in the army, not a fighter. But now, instincts he never knew he had guided him. The Raxian sensed something and started to turn. Jasun leaped forward. He grabbed the alien's weapon and twisted it away with his new strength. The Raxian fought back, its long arms striking at Jasun's face. The blows hurt, but not as much as they should have. Jasun could feel his body healing even as they fought. He struck back, knocking the Raxian to the ground. The alien pulled a small device from its belt, a communication tool. Jasun grabbed it and crushed it in his hand. "No calling for more help," he said, though he knew the Raxian couldn't understand him. The hunter attacked again, moving faster than any human could match. But Jason was no longer just human. He dodged most blows and absorbed the few that landed. Through their mental link, Neri was feeding him information. Aim for the neck, her thoughts told him. It's their weak spot. Jason feinted left, then struck at the Raxian's neck. The alien made a high-pitched sound and fell back. It wasn't dead, but it was stunned. Quickly, Jason tied it up with vines from nearby trees. His new strength made the strong plants into effective ropes. I got it, he told Neri as she came into the clearing. She looked at the captured Raxian with wonder. No one has ever captured one alive before. What do we do with it? Jason asked. Neri knelt beside the alien. Its ship has tracking devices, she said, and communication tools. We can use them. She reached for the weapons on the Raxian's belt. There was a small computer. The Raxian ship hovered above the clearing. It was smaller than Jason had expected, about the size of a bus. Its metal skin glowed faintly in the early morning light. Jason and Neri stood side by side. At their feet was the tied-up Raxian hunter. They had sent their terms to the ship, leave Earth alone, and they would release the hunter. Will they keep their word? Jason asked through their mental link. Raxians value their hunters. Neri replied the same way. They don't like to lose them. A beam of light shot down from the ship. 2 more Raxians appeared in the beam. They were larger than the hunter, with more complex armor. Leaders, Neri explained. They're here to negotiate. The Raxian leaders made clicking sounds as they looked at their captured hunter. Then one of them spoke. The words were strange, but through their mental link, Jason could understand some of it. They're angry, Neri translated for the parts he missed, but also impressed. No one has ever captured one of their hunters before. Jason stepped forward. Tell them to leave Earth alone. This planet is protected. Neri spoke to the Raxians in their language. The leaders clicked to each other, then responded. They ask what you are, Neri said. You look human but fight like a Triaxian. Tell them I'm both now, Jason said proudly. And there can be more like me if humans and Triaxians work together. The Raxians didn't like this. They made angry sounds and touched weapons on their belts. Careful, Neri warned. They're threatening us. Jason stood tall. He let the purple glow in his skin show more clearly. Tell them if they attack, they lose their hunter. And we'll share Triaxian knowledge with all humans. When Neri translated this, the Raxians became very still. They spoke again, more calmly. They agree to leave, Neri said with surprise. But they want assurance no more Triaxians will come to Earth. Before Jason could respond, a new light appeared in the sky. It was brighter, silver instead of the Raxians' dull gray. A Triaxian ship, Neri whispered, her voice full of hope. They found me. The new ship was beautiful, with smooth curves unlike the sharp angles of the Raxian vessel. It descended slowly, hovering opposite the Raxian ship. A beam of silver light touched the ground. 3 Triaxians appeared. They looked like Neri, almost human but with glowing skin and large purple eyes. My people, Neri said, tears in her eyes. She spoke to them quickly in her language. The Triaxians looked at Jason with great interest. One of them approached him and spoke. They thank you for saving me, Neri translated, and they're amazed by our bond. It's never happened before, a human and Triaxian connected this way. The Raxians and Triaxians began to speak to each other. The conversation seemed tense but controlled. What's happening? Jason asked. They're negotiating, Neri explained. About Earth. The Raxians want us to stay away. My people are explaining we only observe, never interfere. Finally, the talking stopped. The Raxians picked up their hunter and returned to their beam of light. In moments, they were gone, their ship vanishing into the sky. The Triaxian leader turned to Neri and spoke at length. They want me to return home, she told Jason. Her face showed conflict. They say I've been missing for months. Everyone thought I was dead. You should go, Jazz-san said, though the thought hurt him. Your family must miss you. Nari touched his face gently. But what about our bond? If I leave, what happens to you? The Triaxian leader spoke again, looking at both of them. What did he say? Jazz-san asked. He says the bond we share is unique. Nari translated. They want to study it. They're inviting you to come with me. Jay-sun looked surprised. To your world? Nari nodded. Or, I could stay here. With you. The Triaxian leader spoke again, longer this time. As Nari listened, her eyes grew wide. There's a third option, she said. My people want to open official contact with Earth. They need someone who understands both worlds. Both of us. Ambassadors? Jazz-sun asked. Nari smiled. Yes, the first human Triaxian team. We would help humans learn about the stars and help my people understand Earth. Jay-sun looked at the Triaxian ship, then at the forest around them. Then he looked at Nari. Through their bond, he felt her hope, her affection for him, and her excitement about what they could do together. I think, he said, taking her hand, this is the beginning of something amazing. Above them, stars were still visible in the morning sky, stars that no longer seemed so distant or unreachable. For Jazz-sun and Nari, a new chapter was just beginning.